Hi, it's Mark Beaumont and I'll be taking part in Doddie Aid 2025 to raise vital funds for research into motor neuron disease. And I'll be cycling, of course, the best activity of all. Beat that!
There's only one activity for us. Rugby, just like Doddie.
Can we just go for a walk? We don't really do swim caps. No offense.
Well, I agree, ladies, but personally, I prefer something a wee bit more relaxing.
On air in 5.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Whoa. What's all this talk about the best activity? It's about finding what works for you.
Whatever you choose to do, just make it count.
Join Doddie Aid today. Pick your activity, log your miles, and help us tackle motor neuron disease.
We're in this together.
Try to keep up, Mark.
Gold medals again. Try to keep up, Mark. We're in this together. Hello and welcome. It's Wednesday night. It's Doddie Aid Live, and I get to be your host, Bruce Aitchison. And it is all happening. Do we have a show for you? We've got 3 magnificent guests coming up. I am very excited with all 3. And we've just been having a chat backstage, and it is going to be a corker. So good to see you. So good to see all of the photographs and videos and people picking up their little trophies and all sorts going on. Doddie Aid is alive and kicking. Over 13,000. We've just gone beyond 13,500 people involved. That's a lot of miles, and the table is incredible. To see the distance that some of you are covering is absolutely unbelievable. Some people building up for that big old cycle that's coming in the Six Nations. Some of you just getting out and about. Some of you turning over a new leaf. People doing 3 marathons in the time over the course of the month. Little doer, have you been keeping an eye on Harvey? He used a pretty rude word to his old man who was making him do his 5K, but he's kept going. He is an inspiration. Harvey Doer, what an absolute superstar. And his old man Dave just keeps cracking the whip and getting involved with him. That is parenting 101. What a top lad. So it's all going on. Heaps of people to talk to, all with their own story. Let's not waste any time. We want to bring in our first guest. Now, you saw Ilona Maher. She had carved up the dance floor in America before she headed over here to start playing for Bristol. But I think her inspiration came from her first guest. Because if anybody was at the Doddie dinner in November, or if anybody had seen what happened on social media, because I got quite excited by it, when this person says, "Are you dancing?" It's not really a question. And onto the dance floor we went, and did we cut some shapes? We made Ilona Maher look like a 1 out of 10. So let's not waste any time and bring in the phenomenal, one of my all-time favourites, the one and the only, former Scotland international, Jodie Rettie, all the way from Auckland, New Zealand. Hello.
How you doing? I appreciate that intro. Like, I don't know about that dancing though.
Oh, that dancing was class. So we were at the dinner. The singing waiters kicked off. Dance floor's empty. He dancing, and up we went, and we carved it up. And you said, "I thought other people would follow us." So we had the whole dance floor to ourselves.
Like, yeah, we'll start it off, mate. Like, let's go. Like, literally, like living the dream. And then no one. I was like, oh no. Got the fear and then dragged us back on anyway.
Yeah, I think everyone was too put off because the standard was so very, very high. But it was class. And we find you in New Zealand, but not just New Zealand, Auckland, and not just Auckland, but Eden Park. What are you doing at Eden Park?
Yeah, so I'm actually quite lucky enough to call this place my job. Like, I work at Eden Park for Auckland Cricket, which is pretty cool. Like, yeah, big fan. Could work in worse places. So got a nice little view of the number 1 at the moment. I got cricket field out the back, and yeah, pretty much living the dream.
So you got introduced as Scotland International. I mean, that accent is just it's from just south, I think, of Dumfries, and now you find yourself in Auckland and you're involved in cricket. So come on, tell us the story. What do you do for Auckland cricket?
So yeah, the accent's a bit all over the place. So I'm going to apologise in advance because there'll be some twangs coming out of nowhere, and I've no control of it. But no, so for Auckland, I do all of their ops and logistics. So pretty much run match days, run our 2 teams, just make sure that they are at matches, fed, clothed, everything that you can imagine that goes on in a match day is pretty much what I deal with. So yeah, it's like herding sheep at sometimes. Like I've got 40 kids essentially, but they're grown adults. But yeah, now I appreciate, like, I think it's definitely given me appreciation for like the management teams that I've been under, like with rugby. Yeah, hats off, because
That's what when you're a player, you just find everything so easy, but there's somebody who was awake before you were awake. There's somebody that goes to bed long after you've gone to bed, who's made sure the kit's there, is on time, the hotels are booked, the food's piping hot, ready to go, there's enough water, all that stuff going on. And now you're on the other side. Have you sent Beth or anyone at Scottish Rugby a message to say, I'm sorry for how we behaved?
I actually haven't. That's terrible of me. I should probably, I'll drop her and be like, I'm so sorry, but thank you so much. Because hours can
thanks, Ellen, for all you've done.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ellen. Yeah, appreciate you a lot.
Some of the people you were with, like Rona Lloyd, Emma Wassel, I mean, enjoy that one, because they probably come back late from their coffee dates, because let's face it, all professional rugby players love a coffee date.
Do love I'd say there was a few times in camp we actually got like baristas to come into camp, and we had like a whole sort of day of it, and cool. But yeah, we do, rugby players do love coffee a lot. And
are you missing playing? Are you missing being away from it, especially this year with World Cup coming, Six Nations just around the corner? Do you miss it, or are you quite happy to be a long distance supporter?
Oh, look, I still play. I'm still out here playing. So yeah, don't get me wrong, I think I stepped away from that at the right time for me. I'm happy being a very long distance supporter right now. And I back the girls 100%. But I came back in November for that dinner, and I thought I was in half decent nick. But as soon as I got into the cold, oh my goodness, everything hurt. And I was like, nah, I've made the right decision to come over this way and stay in warmer climates. So I've made the right decision.
Well, I'm glad that you're saying that. And your involvement with the foundation, that, we were on the same table at the dinner. It was a really cool thing to catch up. You were there with your brother. What's your involvement? Because there'll be people watching who maybe don't know why you're so heavily involved with the foundation.
Yeah, so it's not one that I've really spoke about before, really. But obviously, if you go on my socials, you'll see. But yeah, for me and my brother, obviously we were at the dinner. We've always been in, as soon as it broke out, as soon as my name's Doddie broke out, don't know what it was, but it just hit me. And I was the entire family were just involved straight off. And then just with a turn of events, my dad ended up with MND. So it was one of them ones where kind of knew what we were getting into, just from obviously everything that had happened with Doddie and everything that he was putting out there, which was so good at the time. Honestly, it's helped us as a family. It helped us so much with everything that was out there, and the podcast, the news articles. Honestly, otherwise I'd have been completely blind to it. So Dad passed away couple of years ago now. Yeah, just pretty brutal. But hey, we've now got a community, and this is like the best thing about like Doddie Aid and the foundation is that is like as soon as you've been involved or you've been hit by it in some way, like you've instantly got a community, and you've almost got like a straight off family of like everyone that's trying to get obviously resources and funding and try and find that cure for it. So yeah, like it's been a bittersweet of, yeah, terrible that Dad had it and passed away from it, but the plus side of it is that he would have wanted us and the family to continue and do everything that we physically can. So yeah, so now I jump on and ambassador and do everything that I can to raise awareness for my name. Like, yeah, here we are in Auckland, trying to push it from the other side of the world. Like,
pushing it in Auckland. There's a few supporters across there as well. There's Graham Allardyce has been posting some stuff, and there's a few others. Glenn Metcalf played for Scotland, whose accent's even dodgier than yours, but another Scotland international to add to the list from far away. But the foundation, it's interesting you say that, because I spoke to someone recently whose mum had just recently been diagnosed and hadn't been part of the community and was just finding her feet. So you were already involved and things started to happen. You obviously came across in November. Is there an awareness in New Zealand in the way that there is here around motor neuron disease?
Not as heavily. Like, so I think for me it was like as soon as I knew that I was moving out here, like for me it was like a big thing of wanting to get involved and see if there was something that we can almost sort of like join forces and just sort of try and get some sort of like unity across the world and get this as big as physically possible. But yeah, there's nothing too major on it, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, we'll keep pushing and try and find avenues of getting it out there and people getting awareness of it. And yeah, we'll fight the good fight.
When you came back in November and you were in that room with 300 odd people, and you know we shared stories and we saw great things going on, does it give you a lot of hope?
Oh mate, it fills my heart so much of joy. Like, it's one of them like bittersweets, right? So you walk in and you're like, I've found my people. Like, literally, like you're walking like, these guys. These guys are good. Like, and that's the thing, like, you know, everyone is there, like, Doddie dinner, like, good vibes, mate. Like, you walk in, everyone's just on a great level for like playing field. Like, everyone's there for exactly the same reason. And yeah, like, it does honestly fill your heart with so much joy. But there's the fact that these things have to happen, like, and this terrible thing that's obviously out there for this like community to be like, yeah, it's a bittersweet because you're like, people are suffering with it, have suffered with it and going through it, and it's awful. Like, it's the worst thing out there, like, hands down. Like, I can't ever think of anything worse, to be perfectly honest, than that. But the community and the joy that is like, right, everyone's just biding together and like, literally, let's go. Like, we're gonna knock this on its ass and we're gonna, yeah, come up. It's awesome, eh? Like, I love the little, like, yeah.
Was your old man a Doddie fan? Did he take inspiration from the big man?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like I said, like, as soon as Doddie had his diagnosis, like, and he would talk about it anyway, because like from like being in like Scottish or that, and he was just like, right, we had no choice. Like, even if I didn't know anything about it, like, Dad was there, like, number one, like, we're involved. And yeah, like, yeah, he was big on it. And it was just like, any merchandise or anything that come out, I swear he was like number one to buy it. He was like, gin, gone. Snooze, gone. Like, honestly, like, it was insane. Like, we had like an entire wardrobe, just like everything. So yeah, so he was real big on it. And I think, yeah, it helped him having like those resources, and he kind of knew what he was getting into. Yeah.
I love hearing the positivity that you talk about, because there's so much in there, and you've summed it up. It's hellish. You don't want to do it, but you know that everybody's got your back, and there's a togetherness, a spirit that is reassuring, it brings hope, it brings joy, it brings laughter, and hopefully we can stick together. So as you look ahead, I'm keen to get a bit of your view. It's a big year. I've already mentioned it. Women's World Cup. We've got Laura Jane Jones on later. I'm going to talk to her more broadly, but give me your insight into Scotland. What's your thoughts and hopes for Scotland women in the World Cup this year?
Hey, I think, look, they're at a real exciting time. And I 100% back them. And yeah, I think honestly that tournament is so open for them to go through. They're in the form of their life. They've got the perfect blend of you've got the experienced girls that have been out here at this World Cup. You've got the young guns coming through and pushing everyone. They're exciting to watch at the moment, and the brand of rugby that they are playing is awesome. So yeah, I think I'll back him for finals, eh? Let's go.
Wow.
Tickets. That happens. I'm literally first flight over. I'm going to try and get back anyway, but yeah, I'm excited for them.
It's going to be an awesome event if we can get. This is one of the most British things, an old man thing I can possibly say. But if it's decent weather and we can get these games played in stadiums where people are able to relax and enjoy themselves, it could just be a massive watershed moment. I'm buzzing for it. I've got my tickets for the opening game, and hopefully I'll get to see Scotland. We've actually, Big Handsome Sean, who pushes the buttons and pulls the strings on here, we're having his stag do in Brighton for one of the England games. That's where the game's moved on to.
Right, what a weekend you're going to have.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Listen, Jodie, great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. It's absolutely amazing to have you, and I can't believe we're talking to you live from Eden Park. I'm very jealous, but I hope it goes well today, and I hope there's not too many issues for you to deal with, and we'll speak to you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, mate. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
See you soon, partner. My dad said partner. Loved that. Absolutely loved it. What a superstar. So you heard that Jodie's old man, MND, they got fully involved in the community, and it's a supportive thing, and you know that because that's why you're here. You're here to support, and Doddie providing that inspiration for everybody is just an incredible thing to hear. We're going to keep the party going because I'm really keen to give our next guest as much time as possible. There's so much going on. I've loved seeing her engagement on Instagram and her getting involved and properly being into it. The Welsh team are very lucky to have her as one of the captains. I know that Mark and Steph, who are doing a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, are very pleased with everything that she's getting on to. Amazing to see the fingers in lots of pies, speaking to lots of people. We're going to get our views on everything that's coming up. So please welcome our Welsh captain and superstar, the one and the only Laura Jane Jones. Hello there. How are you?
Hey, Bruce. I didn't know if I was meant to salute when you say Welsh captain. I don't know what the appropriate way for me to join the chat is when I get called by my official Doddie Aid
official title.
Wales co-captain. Yeah. So
how long did that decision take? When you were asked, how long did that?
It's not a decision. It's not a decision. It's a call up. It's you don't get asked to play on the Lions and you don't RSVP to that. You get told that you've been selected and you turn up for the kit, and that's certainly how I felt about it. I was pretty overwhelmed and very delighted to be asked, and I've been incredibly excited to be part of it and being able to encourage other people to get involved in a charity that, I care a lot about, and, in memory of a man that I, loved a huge amount, and a family that I love to support. So yeah, it's been incredibly special. I
loved that I think it was your very first video where you were in the gym and you said, here's all the things I'm going to be doing. Yeah. And I just thought it was class because it absolutely summed up the whole thing, and it just showed that you got it. What's your Doddie story?
Do you know, it's a funny one. I think I say funny, it's not funny. And I think it's something that I've probably found most profoundly affecting this year during Doddie Aid, not just because of being asked to be a captain, but I first met Doddie in 2013. So obviously I'd, grown up. I'm a millennial. I'd grown up on the 97 Lions documentary. So Doddie's legend was something that was you know, I'd never seen Doddie play rugby because I would have been in my kind of like late childhood, early teens when he was still playing. And I don't remember him as a player to have watched at club level really, or international level, but that 97 documentary is so seared on my memory and thousands, if not millions of other people's memories. And his legend status is, you know, part of that. And in 2013, I was working for Sky Sports, who obviously show the Lions tours, and we were doing an event at the Cabbage Patch in Twickenham, and Doddie was one of our panel. And I remember our producer, Jeremy Mann, saying to me, oh God, if you love him on the documentary, you're going to love him even more in real life. And I thought, that's not going to be possible. You know, don't meet your heroes, they say. Yeah. And, you know, Doddie, if anything, was the kind of antithesis of that phrase, because if you were lucky enough to have met him, then you would know that he lived up to every expectation you had. What a hero and legend he was. And I met him in 2013, and it was before he'd had his diagnosis. And it's hit me this year that we are a Lions cycle on. So whilst we're 3 tours on, it's the next Australia. That was the last time we were in Australia. And in that period of time, Doddie had his diagnosis and fought so hard and unfortunately, you know, succumbed to motor neuron disease in the end. And I think if nothing else, it spurs you on to raise money for this charity and let's find a cure for this disease, because it's so sad that happened so quickly to that great man. So yeah, it's this year feels really special because it kind of feels like a full circle moment for me, because we are in that Lions Australia year again.
Geez, you're good. Yes, you're good. Wow, the bar has been set very high. I'm interested to know. There's a lot of people who didn't know Doddie as a rugby player, but just because of how it goes. And he was a good rugby player. And that 97 Lions tour was obviously spectacular. When you've gone to do other things, when you've gone to do other Lions tours or travelled with work, or I always feel there are certain players, you know, John Olomu's the obvious one. There are players that go over borders and are not, they didn't carry any real threat. So opponents loved them as well. What's your experience of Doddie with that? You know, having been in different places and been with them, what was your experience of other people's opinion of Doddie?
I think what epitomizes that for me and Doddie's legend and that cross-border love that he had. In 2019, I was at Hong Kong Sevens, and I always say that Doddie, you know, has given me a great passion for this charity, but he also gave me one of the greatest moments that I've ever had in my life. And that
careful, because his wife might be watching.
If you're listening, don't panic. Hamish was there.
Oh no,
he wasn't sober. He was there. In 2019, I was at Hong Kong Sevens, and Hong Kong Sevens and the fantastic Hong Kong Scottish Rugby host this incredible, huge dinner in aid of My Name's Doddie. And I had been a late addition. My dear friend, former Scotland captain Rory Lawson, had contacted the Hong Kong legend Robbie McRobbie and said, LJJ's in town for the Sevens. Is there any chance that you've got a spare seat at the table for us somewhere? And Robbie McRobbie replied and said, I'm trying to phrase this in a more polite way. It's a bit of a sausage fest. So yes, we'd love to have her. Even out a little bit more. There might be, 5 women and 495 men in the room now. And when I got there that evening, I looked for my name on the table directory and I started at the low tables because I thought, I'm a late addition. I'm a nobody in the context of this dinner. They might ask me to hand out some of the desserts or take the raffle tickets in. I'm okay with that. And as it was, I was on table 1 and I was sat next to Michael Johnson, Michael Johnson, MJ Gold, and spent a dinner, sat next to him, chatting to him. And that was, thanks to Doddie. And I met Billy Connolly that night and had this amazing dinner. But it meant I was in this room of hundreds of people who were there because of Doddie. And Doddie was there as well. And that's what was so special. Doddie was there and spoke incredibly, and not a dry eye in the house, purely because of everyone crying, laughing in moments, and then laughing themselves into tears when Doddie would really change direction with things, and hands would go deep into pockets to raise money. So it was an incredibly special evening, and unsurprisingly we pushed on after the dinner. And I always remember from that evening being in a bar in Wan Chai and a freshly 19-year-old Hamish Weir pouring his first ever pint of Guinness and Doddie turning around and saying, I can die happy knowing that he's now done a hard day's work. And that was, it was one of those evenings where, you know, as much as meeting him in 2013 was special, having an evening like that and partying with him and having fun with him, they're the things where you think, God, that's one of my rugby heroes. And actually everyone else in the room who surrounded by rugby legends, Doddie was one of their rugby heroes as well. And that's what makes it special. The respect that everybody collectively had for him, even though you had people whose rugby stars were just as big, they all loved and respected Doddie just the same as us fans did.
Incredible. That was the dinner to end all rugby dinners. I love that you were sitting next to Michael Johnson. Did you ask him to do the voiceover for your life story when it comes out on BBC Wales?
Oh, we bonded. I mean, did you know that he's really keen on scuba diving? Because I didn't before that, but he was showing me pictures from his last dive and the dolphins. And I sat down and I'd said to Nolly Waterman, I'm going to embarrass myself. You know, what am I going to do? She was like, just don't drink too much. I was like, okay, I won't drink too much. And I sat down and he sat down next to me and somebody made a kind of, oh, LJ, MJ, MJ, LJ, oh, ha, ha, ha. And I was, you know, quite sheepish. And then he filled my glass up with red wine and I took a mouthful and he refilled it. And I thought, okay, MJ, now we're touring. And over the course of the dinner, I got drunker and drunker. I don't drink anymore. Probably partly because of this. And I can remember being especially inebriated and saying to him, MJ, this is your first rugby tour. If I can give you a piece of advice, my friend, what makes you bad makes you better. Have a drink as early as you can tomorrow morning, preferably Guinness. That will fix you. And on the final day of Hong Kong Sevens, by this point, you know, you're 6-7 days of drinking and you're seeing Jesus and you're wondering why I've done this and can I go home, please? And I was laying across the seats of a corporate box and MJ walked in the back, clocked me and walked back out again. And I thought, that's how embarrassing I am, that he's thought I don't want to be near her. However, he turns up 10 minutes later, having gone down to the concourse himself to get me a pint of Guinness. And he brings it over and says, LJ, take your own advice, and handed me the pint of Guinness. And I thought, we're best friends now. We're best friends. So
there's so much of that story I love, but there's also a couple of bits where you went properly Welsh. Yeah. You lost the BBC accent there. You went properly Welsh.
Yeah, and that's the red wine talking, Bruce. And you know, it's still there. I haven't had a drink for over a year, but it's still flowing.
Class. Those are gold memories. I love it. And the Welsh nation are getting involved. Mark and Steph are working away really, really hard to make things happen. How have you found it? Have you found leading the nation an honour and a privilege and getting people motivated?
It's been amazing. I've been very proud of, I'm a member of a gym in Penarth that we've only been open since August, September of last year. And we've got our own ARF league on the app, because obviously you can build your own league. And we're just shy of 3,000 miles between us as a group, which we're all really proud of because everyone's been so engaged by doing this. And I think what's been really interesting is everyone has joined up because I've told them Doddie's story, those who perhaps have been less aware of Doddie and Rob Burrow, you know, me connecting them to it, and then others who know this story because their rugby fans have joined. And then there've also been members of the gym who I haven't realised have been personally affected by motor neuron disease. And I think that's what's been interesting too. It's been an opportunity for them to share their story about a disease that unfortunately we don't talk about enough. And we're not sharing enough, and it doesn't get enough attention because it should do, because we need to find a cure for this. So it's been incredible to be part of this, and it makes me very proud to see people wearing the snood and wearing their bubble hats. And when you do wear your bubble hat and people see you and they say, oh, Doddie Aid, I've signed up, and brilliant. Make sure you log those miles. So yeah, it's been amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Class. I love it. Rob Boynes, who's a mad Welshman, is part of the cycling group. I'm actually wearing we cycled from Edinburgh to Rome last year, and this year he's doing Wales to Murrayfield via Ireland. So that's Rob asking if he can ride a bike.
Yeah, I can see that, and I'm ignoring it slightly because my road bike is on the wall in my parents' garage without a front wheel on it, and I'll be honest, it's going to remain that way. I don't think I've got Cardiff to Murrayfield in the saddle in me, but I will quite happily cheer you guys on into Princes Street, because that is too far for me to ride a bike.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Now you've dropped some unbelievable names. Robbie McRobbie being my favourite because he's a hero of mine.
What a legend.
But I was asking you before we came on, had you spent any time with Ilona Maher since she arrived on these shores? And obviously things are just going supersonic for her, apart from her getting her face busted up at the weekend. But it's been incredible for the women's game, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is absolutely amazing. And I spoke to somebody who is pretty high up at TNT yesterday, and he said that there has been a tangible and quite heavy impact on their viewing figures already. So that the games that they've shown that Bristol have played in, there has been a marked increase in viewership, which is amazing. The thing that I find amazing about that and shocks a lot of people is that we assume that it's a Taylor Swift audience. We think that Ilona is having the Taylor Swift impact on rugby that Taylor Swift has had on the NFL and has attracted this new young core audience of young women. It's not necessarily the case. What's been amazing is to see that the audience for women's rugby is the same as a men's rugby audience. And actually it's older men who are really enjoying women's rugby, because it looks a bit more like the rugby that they were watching in the 70s and 80s. You know, there's not as much kicking. And when the ball is kicked, it doesn't go as far, and it feels a bit purer to some people. And actually there's a lot of men who've seen Ilona and gone, wow, what an impressive specimen. And I get the question so often, you know, where's she from? America. And I love to add into it, she's got Dutch heritage. That explains it. But she's landed and you know, she's an incredibly special person. And I think it's amazing to see how well supported she's been so far. And I can, you know, say to anybody that Ilona that you see on TikTok and Instagram is the Ilona that you get in real life. She's a wonderful young woman and an incredible ambassador for this game. And we're very lucky to have her over here at the moment, and hopefully have her over here later in the year when the Rugby World Cup kicks off.
Yeah, geez, I think she has to be. Well, as you look ahead to, let's start with the men's Six Nations. Men's Six Nations coming up. I'm loath to ask you about Wales, but I think I probably have to. What's your hopes and dreams for Wales this Six Nations?
Look, I think there's a symptom of being Welsh that is quite tragic. That if at this point we are still a week and a half out, and I can say speak with my head and say that I am concerned. There is talent in that squad, but there's also a lot of youth and naivety, and you'd hope that in a couple of years' time, some of that talent will have matured by the time we get to a World Cup, and it won't seem as dire as it does now. You know, the autumns weren't particularly inspiring for Wales, and it does look like this could be another very tough campaign. What I will say is, if you ask me this question in a week and a day's time, I'll say, you catch France cold on Friday night in Paris. Anything? What did they think was going to happen in 2005? We beat England in the opening game. Did they think we were going to win a Grand Slam? No. So it's the hope that kills you.
Oh, tell me about it.
That's what I'll say. I do want to say I am very much looking forward to Wales' second game when they're away in Rome. And I'd like to say a massive congratulations to a Scottish young man, Sam Grove-White, who gets to live his Six Nations dream this year. And he'll be part of the officials team. Sam's a good friend of mine, and I'm so happy for him that he's there for the refereeing panel in that game.
Yeah, his old man is going to be absolutely beside himself. Absolutely beside himself. Yeah, class. Sam's a good lad. One of my favourites up here. And then as we look to the women's Six Nations, Wales and Scotland and Ireland have had a fair few scraps. England are obviously looking like a million miles ahead of things again, and especially going into a World Cup. What's your thoughts for the women's Six Nations? What can you see unfolding there?
I think from a Wales perspective, we're probably in the most interesting position because of everything that's gone on in very recent history, and the fact that Sean Lynn just yesterday was announced as Wales's new head coach, which is amazing and exciting. I'm a huge Sean Lynn fan, and I think he is one of the greatest things to happen to women's rugby since women started playing rugby. I also really believe in him as a person and a coach, and really hope that he has great success. But I do hope that expectation is low going into the Six Nations. And I also hope that we don't exceed expectation too soon, because I would love for Wales to get to a World Cup in September and really spring a surprise, because I really think that, I said to Sarah Elgan earlier, actually over coffee, that unfortunately a lot of the Welsh public who don't follow women's rugby do not realise that at the moment this is probably the most talented group of Welsh women's rugby players we have ever had. This is a group of rugby players who are week in, week out performing at such a high level and are starring in the Premiership. And it hasn't clicked in a Wales jersey. And when it does, they will be lethal, and it's exciting. And I can't wait for the World Cup now that the right man is in charge. I just hope that we don't see a false dawn too early in the Six Nations. I think that Scotland are going from strength to strength. I think that Brian Aitchison is also one of my favourite people in rugby, and I love what he does with that group, and I love how much that group love him. I think that they will continue to build. I think that the foundation is there, and for a long time I had so many tearful interviews with Rachel Malcolm where if winning is a habit, was losing a habit for Scotland. They've shaken that off their back now, and they look like a better team, and they look like a team that can pull some punches. So they will have expectations of going well in this Six Nations. Ireland were the surprise of last Six Nations. Can they back that up? I'd be surprised, but never say never. The French, we never know what to expect from them at the moment, and I'm sure they'll be strong, but at the same time, sometimes it feels like they're a bit of a spent force. I'm not sure that they will be one of our top teams at the World Cup later in the year. I think what's interesting is, like you said, England are so far ahead of the rest of the world that the rumour in women's rugby circles is that they can't find World Cup warm-up games. Nobody wants to play them because they're so good. So it's going to be interesting to see how things look post Six Nations if they have got 5 months where they don't play any rugby.
They've got an Aitchison at 10, so I reckon it's all over. I'm still claiming her as my daughter. And then Ilona Maher, you think she's going to have a crack? Charlotte Caslick stepped down as Aussie Sevens captain. Might be a chance of her coming over as well.
Yeah, I think that Joe Yapp has had serious conversations with a lot of those Aussie Sevens girls, and I think that Caslick will certainly be in that squad. It'll be interesting to see where she plays. I'm assuming she's probably going to play scrum half, but we'll see. She will certainly have a target on her back because there are lots of girls who have played sevens against her and will have a lot more 15s experience, and will want to make sure that she knows that when she gets up here later in the year. And I don't think that'll be pretty for her. I think if the Levi sisters decide that they're going to come and play 15s, that could be pretty tough for all of us, because they are big girls with a huge amount of skill and they're not afraid of anything. Australia will be an interesting package, and Wales play a warm-up series down there over the summer before everyone travels up here. So I think that it can sound like we're overhyping this Rugby World Cup, and off the back of the last one in New Zealand, which was the most supported and the most watched ever, I think people sometimes worry that we're speaking about this with great hyperbole, but it's not. That's the trajectory of women's rugby at the moment, and women's rugby players are just getting better. And this Rugby World Cup is on in our time zone, and it's on around the country. And even if you are in Scotland or you're in Wales, you can get down to Sunderland or you can get across to Bristol, and there's no excuse for us not to be able to enjoy these games. And it is going to be incredible from start to finish, and I cannot wait to be a part of it.
Agree. I'm very excited, and you've just stoked that fire even more. It is class. LJ, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you. But before I let you go, I do have one final question. Now, over the years of Doddie Aid, I've been lucky enough to host shows every week through all Doddie Aids. I've spoken to Lorraine Kelly, to Gabby Logan, to Jill Douglas, Jenny Faulkner, Ailey Barber. Last week I had Jennifer Rioch. So some of the nation's finest journalists, presenters, and I've been doing this for a long time, so I've got to finish with one question.
Go on.
How did I do?
Bruce, faultless, obviously.
LJ, you were my favourite before, and even more so now. It's an absolute joy. Thank you so much. Keep going, keep banging the drum in Wales, and I look forward to seeing you soon. What a star. Absolutely love it. So much knowledge, and speaks with such passion. And when you hear somebody that was a Doddie fan and can become a supporter, then it just fills you up. And I'm not going to lie, there's a huge amount of jealousy about being at that dinner in Hong Kong in 2019. And to think that Hamish Weir did a day's work, I'm not sure he's done one since, but the lad keeps going. He's quite a lad, is our Hamish. And it's so good to see so many people tuning in and having a look and getting excited about what we've got. We've got one final guest this evening, and the relentless nature of all of our guests tonight. Jodie getting up early in New Zealand to get to work so that she can tune in. Her dad had M&D, wants to take part, wants to bang the drum. LJ, who's just going for it in Wales and willing to speak to people and spread the word. And our next guest just blows my mind with the Doddie Aid engagement and the way she's banging the drum and trying to get people involved, and a proper good human making the community stronger. So let's not waste any more time and bring in the one and the only Beth Sweeney, otherwise known as the Doddie Vet. Hello.
Hi. There's 300 of them now.
It's bonkers. Talk us through the story, because there will be people watching. The Doddie Vet started as a little thing and now it's just grown. So give us your story of the Doddie Vet community.
Yes. So we started in 3 years ago. So 2023, we thought, let's give it a go and reach out to local practices, Glasgow and West Scotland. And we were kind of overwhelmed with how many people were up for it and how engaged everybody was. And so we had a league of 10 practices, really good fun. So we did it again. And last year we got 30 practices, which was just amazing. We managed to spread the word so that we had Scotland, England and Wales involved at that point. And we just had so much fun with it. So it was really lighthearted, really fun, had some prizes along the way, had over 300 people involved. And this year we've done it for the third year and we're now at 38 practices. And yeah, it's just amazing. It's just growing every year, and it's just everyone's having a really good time with it.
So you started, right? We need to get involved in this thing called Doddie Aid. I'm making a league. You got practices involved. You got excited. The following year it grows, and then this year you've got 38. That's insane. Are you finding? Are they taking part to have fun, or are they taking part because there's a lot of competition here and they want to get one up on the practice along the road?
Oh, yeah, definitely a little bit of that. There's a little bit of everything, to be honest. There's the lunchtime walkers, there's the eager cyclists that are out every weekend clocking up the miles. There's the friendly rivalry between the practices, and it's all over our Facebook page as well. Actually, my husband, he is in another practice. It's a local practice to us. So that's our friendly rivalry. So we're always trying to make sure that we're, watching each other's miles. And we've got an exercise bike in the kitchen that we're always like shoving each other off to make sure, like, how many miles are you at now? Oh, right. Okay. No. Yes, that's fine.
It's amazing. And it's such a cool thing, because they've taken you've done it and got them involved. How did you engage them? Did you? So what I'm really getting at is, can you tell us your story? And was that what you told to try and recruit people?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my mum had M&D, and she was diagnosed in 2016. And her initial symptoms were slurred speech, and then it progressed to loss of strength in her arms and feet, and she eventually got the diagnosis of motor neuron disease. And yeah, I mean, my mum was incredible. She was so positive and so upbeat, and was a keen golfer. She was a keen, really, really active and really social, and was really keen to keep as much of that going as possible. So with the help of my dad and her friends, they managed to keep her going to as many things as they could, which was brilliant. So about a couple of years into my mum being diagnosed, my dad then developed neurological symptoms, and after tests he was diagnosed with a brain tumour, and he had surgery and radiation, and unfortunately we lost him about 6 months later. And it was at that point that my brother, my sister, my mum's sister, and my mum's friend, we all kind of collaborated and tried to make it work for my mum. So we put together a care rota so that my mum could stay at home, and she managed to stay at home, and she passed away in February 2020. So she had the most amazing attitude, and she was really positive and upbeat, and she kept smiling the whole time. And there were highs and lows, but she had a sense of humour as well, and she was able to just have a really positive outlook, which helped us a lot as well.
It's becoming quite a common theme, isn't it? And I suppose people are maybe only going to tell those, and forgive me for this, those positive stories. Somebody's got this diagnosis, but they're saying, right, here's what I'm going to do. I could only see the negative. I could focus on myself. But so few people that we're aware of in the community do that. They come out kicking and say, right, here's what it is. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to make it. Were you aware of motor neuron disease before your mum, or was that something that you had to learn as you went along?
We had to learn. And at the time in 2016, when mum was diagnosed, I had to look it up. I had to Google it. And we were living over in the States at the time, so my husband and I moved back to help support, along with my dad and my brother and sister. And yeah, it was we had to Google up. We knew about that's what Stephen Hawking had, and then it was a year later that Doddie was diagnosed, and it, the momentum that he created, and just the awareness that he raised was incredible. And my mum really admired him. She thought he was just wonderful, and was so grateful that he and Rob Burrow were able to share their stories and raise awareness. And she was able to see that as well. She was able to see the momentum that created, and snowball really to where we are now.
And we heard a bit of that from Jodie at the beginning of the show. It's obviously it's a thing none of us chose or really wanted to be part of, but how has being part of the community helped you and helped your family?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. The community is just, there's so many inspirational people out there that are just so motivated. And the likes of, Kevin Sinfield, who's running, and raising all the awareness, and everyone who's sharing their story. It's incredible. It's such an incredible group of people.
Yeah, and you're absolutely part of that. Geez, you're right in the middle of it. How do you, so you mentioned the exercise bike in the kitchen. How are you collecting your miles?
A little bit of running. There's the exercise bike that is good for getting the miles up. So yeah, we're fighting over that. Lots of dog walking, as you can imagine. There's lots of dogs between 38 practices. So we're getting a lot of lunchtime walks in, and steps whenever we can for that.
And in the space between Doddie Aids in the rest of the year, you've obviously done a huge amount to raise awareness within those practices, and there's probably people in there that have their own MND story, but you've done a lot to raise awareness. Is there anything that happens throughout the year? Are you making them aware of the other things that go on?
Yeah, we just try and touch base really. So this year, as of last year, we started a Facebook group to just help keep the communication going, and to have everyone post stories and share what they're doing. So we try and just kind of touch base with that as of about September, just to get kind of feelers out and get the idea in everyone's head, and even to spread the word as well, because the vet community is quite small, and it is quite a good way of spreading the word out. So yeah, we try and do that, and then when it gets to December, we really start to go to social media and see if we can reach as many people as possible. So this is the first year that we've had the Instagram account, which has been really good. Actually, that's been a really good way of getting the word out there and trying to. And we've had practices from all over. So we have practices from down in the south of England, and this is the first year we've had teams in Northern Ireland, and they're actually one to watch. They're very good. The Irish teams.
That's
they're always out there collecting miles.
It's a sign of age. Not that long ago, I went to the vet and I couldn't believe how young the vet was. You know, that thing you used to hear your parents saying that the policemen are getting younger, and I went and the vet was ridiculously young. So you've had to go to Instagram for the younger generation.
Yeah.
Facebook for the older vets, Instagram for the young team.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So we're going to have a look at the leaderboard, Beth. You mentioned Northern Ireland and the vets there that are racking things up. I think Scotland are obviously flying because the team's at its biggest. We're kissing very close to 10,000 for Scotland. But that's even if you look at Ireland, you're talking about the distance. 440 people have done almost 30,000 miles. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wales 640, well over 42,000. I think most of that's probably Rob Boynes getting ready for the cycle from Wales to Murrayfield. Team England, again, that's pretty impressive. Almost 1,800 people doing way over 112, almost 113,000. But look at that, Team Scotland. So how many miles do you think you've contributed so far, Beth?
Oh, I think I'm about 98. I'm just shy of 100. Yeah, and I think my husband is about 108, 110 maybe. So I'm going to try and catch up without. I might do a couple of miles after this.
Oh, I'm very impressed with that. That is definite dedication. Beth, it's been incredible. What I would like you to do before you disappear, there's people watching and we'll be able to farm this out over the course of the next few days. Give us your reason for getting involved in the foundation and in Doddie Aid, and then give us your rallying call to get people to sign up or engage with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been blown away by the foundation and how much they have done for awareness and putting funding where it needs to go and moving things closer to where they need to be. And I think the logo for this year of We're in This Together, I think is just, absolutely defines what this is all about. It's a community, it's fun, it's good for you, and it's raising money for the most important cause, that it could be. So it's if everyone can just get involved, it doesn't have to be big miles, it can just be a little lunchtime dog walk, and let's just keep pushing.
Beth, it's been amazing to speak to you. I'm so pleased you came on, and thank you for sharing your story. Keep up the great work. It blows my mind. Like, people share, oh, well done, getting signed up and do it. The number of people that you're bringing into this thing and spreading the awareness, and even if all those people only put in their money to join, you've made a huge contribution. So thank you from everybody, and please keep up the good work. And I'm really looking forward. I'm not getting on the bike or it, but I'm quite happy to join you for a dog walk. I'll bring my Maggie and we can go for a dog walk. Great to see you, Beth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye. So good. 3 incredible guests. Jodie, Rettie dialing in from Auckland before she goes to work at Cricket Auckland. Laura Jane Jones, who's Doddie stories and belief in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and her knowledge of the game of rugby is fantastic to hear. And then to have somebody like Beth involved, who's doing so much and banging the drum and keeping things going, it's absolutely phenomenal. Thank you all for tuning in. This week it's about feeling good, and hopefully tonight please just keep going. Please stick together if you can. Join up and do stuff that makes you happy. Get out, go for a walk, go for a run, do whatever it is you do. Log your miles. Join up with the communities that are on the various social medias, because we're in this together. Jodie, Laura Jane and Beth, outstanding role models and great people to have as part of the community. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week. We've got more guests to come. Stay tuned on all the social media channels and keep sharing what you're up to. We're going to finish with the montage, so hang around and see if you can see yourself or people you know, and look after yourself this week. My name is Bruce Aitchison, and I'll see you all again very, very soon. Thank you.